Oh, all righty. Well, let's go ahead and get started so we can kick off our Friday afternoon. But thank you all so much for joining us today for the first part of our three-part series called Friday Feature. On behalf of the Office of Career Development and Corporate Relations, I am so excited, students, that you can join us today, and also to our lovely panelists who will get to introduce themselves soon. Just thank you all for being a part of today, and hopefully with our future series as well. For those of you who I haven't met, and I'm excited to see a few familiar faces of students I've met thus far, my name is Marissa Miller, and I serve as one of the career counselors within Career Development and Corporate Relations for the College of Engineering. And so today I'm going to go through a couple housekeeping items. Welcome to Zoom. If you have yet to use it, I know students, you're utilizing this in most of your coursework, but bear with me as I do this for the first time in a presentation format, and also know that this session is being recorded, and so I will provide this link, this recording link, to you all that are here today, but also if you have any classmates or colleagues that you know may have been interested in this topic or couldn't make it today, when I do send this out, I would be happy for you to forward this information along to them as well. So today, the official topic is called Communication Connections. And so finding ways to be effective in engaging within the industry, specifically during our current climate, what's happening with multiple industries, multiple states, and individuals having to work remotely. So just like we are on Auburn University's campus, how can we continue to be effective and engage, whether we're searching for an internship, whether we're searching for full-time positions, whether we're still exploring what are the types of opportunities that we're looking for. So we'll go over a couple other things, and then I will be quiet, if you will, and hand it over to our lovely panelists. But in addition, just a couple options to think about today. So students, how this will work today is if you have questions that you'd like answered from our panelists, if you can go ahead and use the chat function just like we used at the beginning of this opportunity, to be able to chat me individually what questions you have, and then I will help moderate those for both Chris and Brandon, who you're about to meet soon. If for some reason we run out of time today and don't have all your questions answered, I am happy to follow up with both Chris and Brandon to get responses. I'm also happy to follow up with you individually as well. If you are just joining us and maybe you didn't get to chat me on the front end, if you could just quickly chat me individually, I'd love to hear what program you're currently a part of, so what your major is, where you're at in that process, and also if you are searching for an internship, for a full-time position, if you are still exploring, because near the end I'm going to give you a little shameless plug of how you and I can meet after today's session into next week, and meet individually via Zoom to help you in your career development process. As mentioned earlier, this session is being recorded. I will happily share this to you all after today's session. And if you wouldn't mind, if you all can keep your mics on mute, that way we can hear Chris and Brandon during this time. But if you need anything in the next 45 minutes, 50 minutes, please just chat me individually, and I'm happy to be of assistance and pretend that I am a Zoom expert for the next hour. So without further ado, I'd love to go ahead and hand it over to our panelists for today. So Chris, if you want to start us off with an introduction, we'd love to hear about your story and then what brought you to where you are today. And then Brandon, if you would be so kind to follow up after Chris and to hear from you as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll get us kicked off. My name's Chris Scheinert. I graduated in 2016 in chemical engineering, as it shows on the screen. So I was involved with a bunch of different stuff on campus, the AICHE. I was part of the Couple Engineering Ambassadors as well. So when I graduated, I hired on with a company called Emerson that does a bunch of different things, mainly in the industrial automation space. So control systems is where I work today. But out of school, I went directly into a rotational program that sent me a year up to Dayton, Ohio, a year overseas actually in Singapore, and now I've been in Austin, Texas for 2 years. So I kind of work as a liaison between the engineering world and the technology world and the sales world. So I get to get deep into technical things with control systems, as well as kind of stay high level on the sales end, which is where I like to be. So if you guys have any questions about that, please let me know. And Brandon and I are here to answer anything you may have. So go ahead, Brandon.
Cool. Thanks, Chris. So yeah, my name is Brandon Teal. I graduated December 2015 in electrical engineering. And while I was on campus, I was involved in like IEEE, and I worked in the career center being a student career advisor. And that's kind of why I like doing these type of things, because I've always kind of liked the career aspect of, whether it be networking, resume, whether it may be, I'm really interested by that. So this is, I enjoy doing these type of things. The summer before I graduated, I had an internship with Southern Company, and then got a full-time offer coming out. So started in January 2016 and been with them ever since. My first role was a design role, which I was in about 3 years, I think. And then I'm in my current role as a project support engineer, which our group is responsible for the scoping and estimating of projects on the front end. So we're really, really on the very beginning stages of all the projects, the big substation projects on the system specifically. So I've really enjoyed it. I really like communicating with people. I consider myself kind of technical, but I really like being a part of the team and communicating with people probably the most out of anything. So kind of like Chris said, I can answer any questions you have, whether it pertain to Southern Company or, really anything career-wise. I'll try my best to answer it.
Wonderful. Well, thank you both so much. And I cannot thank you both enough for being here and for spending your Friday afternoon with us. And I can't speak on behalf of the students, but I would just love to just thank you again. And hopefully we can get some questions rolling and to hear your insight and just can kind of go from there. But all righty. So to get us started, we do have our first question. And so one of our students has unfortunately just started the process based on her study abroad opportunity being canceled for the summer, and is starting the internship search specifically in the Birmingham area. And so what would both of you recommend as the appropriate way for a student to reach out to companies to see if they're looking for interns and if there are any openings?
I can, give my spiel. So I guess, the appropriate, I guess my first thing would maybe, kind of narrow down to a couple companies that I would be interested in, I guess, I don't know, maybe a handful. And then from there, I know I've done this before, even when I was in school. So getting on LinkedIn, let's say I was interested in Southern Company. I would get on the LinkedIn, maybe search Southern Company HR, because the HR people are going to be the frontline people. They're going to know which openings they have and what location and what division. So that's kind of the first, I guess, line of defense you would need to hit on is in my opinion, the HR people. From there, then they're going to be able to direct you to the more specialized managers that are going to be in charge of the hiring. So I would even, like I said, narrow down the company and then maybe type in HR Southern Company and find a couple people, send them a message, be like, hey, I'm interested in a summer internship in Birmingham. Are there any openings? Would you mind having a conversation with me? Something like that,
No, Brandon, I'm glad you mentioned that. That was going to be one of my pieces of advice as well, because the HR managers know all of the hiring managers, right? So if you can get to that one person, then you can go from there. The other thing I would do with LinkedIn specifically is if you've got a network that's starting to get fleshed out, or if you know people at the company or know anybody within, let's say Southern Company for that same example, it never hurts to reach out to them and say, hey, this is what I'm looking for. Do you know anybody? Do you know of anything? Can you pass my name along? I'll set up I guess not an in-person interview, but like a call with anybody or anything like that. So it's really working the network right now, because it's a little difficult to get out there, as we all understand, and it's a little bit difficult at times. So just be prepared to make multiple touch points and make multiple efforts at getting in the door. So keep your hopes up. It can be difficult sometimes, but good luck.
And I know there's even an option. Let's say if you click on a company, you search for a company on LinkedIn, you can also search for which college they went to. And I think that's a really good connection point, which I've done before, is seeing, let's say the person went to Auburn, you just give a quick, hey, War Eagle, my name is so-and-so. Just when someone does that, personally to me, I would probably feel more inclined to even respond. So it's just making a connection off the bat.
Wonderful. All righty. Thank you, guys. Next question we have is for both of you. How has your understanding and practice of effective networking changed since you graduated?
How has my practice? Chris, you want to go first?
Yeah, I'll start this one off. The one thing I've learned with my network now that I didn't necessarily realize when I was graduating is the field I'm in, controls engineering to automation, is a relatively small community. So I had the interpretation when I graduated from Auburn, like there's thousands of engineers out there. I may work with somebody one day and then never see them again. That in just my 4 years of working at Emerson, I've run into people that have been at Emerson, then gone to different companies, then come back to Emerson. What I'm trying to get at is you don't realize how small the world is once you get into the engineering field. So my understanding of my network is always be cognizant of who you're talking to and the impression you live on people, because you never know who you're going to see in 3 years down the road. Right? I've seen that just in my short career so far. I don't know if you have, Brandon.
Yeah, definitely have seen that. And what I was going to say is, I guess as I've gotten older, I feel like the main thing that's changed for me is I'm really, I guess, intentional about networking now. You'll see people that will make a connection, go meet with somebody, and then, you'll never meet with them again, which, what is, in my opinion, I don't understand the point of that, because, you're trying to, I guess, build, the main thing about networking, in my opinion, is just building a relationship, So I'm thinking of an example. A couple of months ago, there's a person at Southern Company that I got introduced to when I first started, and she's kind of high up. I'm just fresh out of college, but we met, and we've continued to meet, let's say once or twice a year. Even though she's in a completely separate part of the company, nothing to do with what I'm doing, but it's just a good relationship to build, and kind of being intentional. Like I said, is I think I saw her copy on an email, because I think she's on the Auburn Big Engineering Council. And then just seeing that, kind of in my head sparked another connection point I can make. So, I sent her an email, hadn't met with her probably 6 months. Said, hey, I saw you were copying on the so-and-so email with the Engineering Council. Didn't know you were involved with that. I just got involved with the Young Alumni Council. Would love to sit down and talk with, the stuff you've done with that. So just situations like that when you, I guess, you really have no need to talk to that person, or you feel like you don't, but just continuing that relationship, because you never know down the road when it's going to come in handy. So just being intentional about the connections you make and still maintaining that relationship, trying to find connection points you can meet with them about going forward.
Brandon, you have a really good point there of me personally, I'm really bad about like out of sight, out of mind. So being intentional about, hey, I'm gonna, I do it with meeting notifications on my calendar, just like, hey, reach out to so and so, make sure that you're still having those touch points. That goes for business or personal. When you're college friends, like be intentional about keeping up with everybody.
Yeah, and it's even tougher in the climate we're in right now, because everything is through computer, through the phone. So, it's easy when you're at work to just go fly by somebody's office and say, hey, pop in for 20 minutes, whatever it may be. But now I feel like you have to become even more intentional, because we're all in the same boat right now, doing everything over computer and over Skype and phone. So yeah, completely agree with what you said.
As a follow-up to that is, in certain situations and circumstances, let's say if a student is graduating this semester in a few short weeks, congratulations to those that are, but if for some reason a student is not able to get a job or an internship prior to graduation. What would be your thoughts of how they should try and network after they graduate to still seek employment?
I guess it goes back to what I said before, is I would, narrow down a couple of companies I would be interested in. And also what Chris said is leveraging, if you have a network, leverage your network to maybe find connections that, you can leverage personally. If one of your friends knows someone's parents that work at the company, stuff like that, doing that. And then also trying to schedule, whether it may be a phone meeting, if it's right now, or, in the future, maybe like a sit down coffee meeting, 15 minutes, 30 minutes, just to, learn about the company. It's kind of like an informational interview, just, I guess, put yourself on their radar and show your interest.
Yeah. And on top of that, depending on if you're back home or in Auburn or wherever it may be intentional about the alumni clubs after you graduate.
Mm-hmm.
If you're from Birmingham, join the Birmingham one. It's huge. Atlanta's huge. Houston is massive. But even when I was in Dayton, Ohio, the Cincinnati Alumni Club was very, very strong, very active. I'm in Austin now, and the Austin one's very strong and very active. And going to events like that, just to go once we are out of quarantine, watch a football game, hopefully.
Mm-hmm.
You never know who you're going to run into. So I didn't realize there were so many Auburn people in Austin, Texas until I moved out here. So whenever that is lifted and whenever we can go places, being intentional about getting yourself out there is key as well.
Thank you both. I'm going to insert a question there, and just I would love to hear from both of you more about what has your transition looked like since within the month of March, how all things COVID-19 have developed. How has it affected your personal day-to-day, so most likely remote, and also within your organizations? And to that, how are you personally finding motivation to continue on with the work that you're doing? Because I feel our students are in very similar situations. So they're completely remote for coursework and anything relevant to the institution, and needing to figure out what's the best way to stay motivated, what's the best way to stay connected.
Want to take it?
Yeah, I'll go. It's not been easy. I know it hasn't been on everybody as well, but something I've done is still try to stay intentional about my routine of getting up in the morning, making breakfast, making coffee, showering, putting on something that isn't sweatpants. Not that there's anything wrong with that. I just know that I work better when I have a dedicated space and when I'm in the right mindset. So I'm at my kitchen table right now. I've got my monitors from work. I've got my entire setup that I would normally have in a working office environment. And so I can kind of put myself in the headspace of going to work, of sitting down at the kitchen table. That's how I work. You guys may work differently. Just, I think it's important during these kind of weird times of understanding how you work and how you're effective, because we still got to get the job done at the end of the day. And in kind of times like this, you're gonna see the fruits of your labor multiple months down the road, right? So if we work hard now, it's going to be prosperous later. So that's my kind of spiel on it, Brandon.
Yeah, so it's kind of weird. So I would usually get to work in the office at like 6 a.m. So it's pretty early. So now I'm waking up at 6 a.m., which is kind of nice, getting a little extra sleep. But put on some clothes, shower, whatever it may be, and then I'll have my desk out in kind of my living room, kitchen area that I go to. And I work till about probably like 10:30, 11, take a lunch break. And I've been trying to do workouts outside, have some dumbbells, whatever it may be, and meeting up with actually one of my buddies on a rooftop, and probably between about 11 and 12 usually try to do a workout just to get out of my apartment, because, I'm going stir crazy. And then come back and finish up the afternoon. But the transition has been actually very easy because at least, my work group a couple of years ago, our VP, she's now gone, she implemented a telecommuting policy. So we have for the last year or two, been given the opportunity to work up to 2 days a week from home, which has been great. And of course, everyone loves it. And I guess the main skepticism was, some upper tier management that were kind of against it and maybe thought production would fall off, but everything's been fine. So personally, for my work group, it's been a seamless transition. But I know there's other groups in the company that don't have that policy, and they've kind of struggled because all this happened so quickly, and it was tough to get that large amount of people situated with telecommuting, and I think there's been a lot of problems. But me personally, it's been fine. It's just like I said, I'm going a little stir crazy. I never thought I'd say I would be looking forward to going back to the office, but I kind of am. After all this is done.
Yeah. I was joking with a colleague of mine the other day of, if you would have told me that I was going to sit inside all weekend, watch Netflix, and not really do anything, I would have told you that it was the best weekend I could have had. And now it seems like torture. I don't know what it is, but it's intense.
But yeah, like Chris said, it's just trying to keep some type of routine, which, will help you out a lot.
All right. Well, as some students, please continue to chat questions that you may have. And I want to encourage you all, students, to please ask anything in relation to kind of what we're chatting about today. Do not feel obligated to have to stay on topic. This is meant to be for you and to have a conversation with two fantastic Auburn engineers, and that are wanting to share their experiences, but also hear from you as well. Yeah, I have another one. Perfect timing. All righty. So a current student in chemical engineering, but someone who is potentially, I saw that, potentially thinking about areas and opportunities, maybe not directly within engineering. So maybe more of the business side in different companies. So someone who works, speaking as someone who works in business development, what has been your transition from engineering to the business sector?
Oh, it was, for me, that's exactly what I wanted to do. I realized that I didn't want to be stuck in a refinery or be in a chemical plant. Not that there's anything wrong with that. I just like the kind of people aspect of work. And when I was in Kupla, I loved the interaction that you got there. So it has been incredibly easy to transition into a sales-like role. I'm not an outside sales kind of guy by any means, but a sales support. So I'm kind of that bridge between engineering and sales. So I get my fix of talking to people, giving demos, giving engineering presentations. So I get that fix. And then at the end of the day, like, who doesn't love to dig into a spreadsheet and be kind of nerdy still? So I still get that engineering side of it too. So for me, business development was like a perfect mix of both worlds. I got a business minor when I was at Auburn. So it's kind of amazing. I use the business stuff a lot more now than, I don't know, fugacity, whatever that meant, or steam tables back in thermo, right? I'm using the businessy side of things now. So I've loved that transition. I know, Brandon, you're kind of in a similar role too. So want to piggyback on anything?
Yeah, kind of what I was saying earlier is, I consider myself kind of technical, but I really like the communicating piece of working in teams. And that's really a big part of my role is figuring out, because I communicate probably with, 5 to 10 groups on a project. It's really about figuring out someone's communication style and building a relationship with them. And then, as you go, through different projects and you're still working with that same person, your relationship gets stronger, and you figure out, they like, just calling them on the phone, or they like being emailed, or they like being whatever it may be. So I like that piece, figuring out people's personalities and how they communicate is really interesting to me. And, I see myself down the road being kind of a project manager or being in one of those type of roles, not necessarily down in the weeds doing engineering stuff all the time, just because of my personality and my strength. So, I feel like, no matter what engineering degree you get, you can easily branch off into, a business role or a more people role, because, having an engineering degree is so broad in terms of, the skills you learn and, how, broad you can use it, I guess.
Wonderful. Next question is, so if similar or back to kind of the job search and what your recommendations might be post-graduation, what are both of your thoughts on, for a student who maybe doesn't land a position upon graduation, what would be your thoughts or advice if to consider taking the GRE and potentially taking and or taking continuing education classes?
I don't see a problem with that. I know, I think this was when we were coming out of school is, I think during, I guess, the electrical engineering school, I think the advice was if you were going into an engineering master's program, they recommended going straight in just because of the technical things you're still going to need, I guess, from undergrad. But if you wanted to do like an MBA, which I plan on doing, you could wait a little bit. So I guess kind of the question, if you don't have a job set up and you're looking at going to grad school, I think it'd be a good thing just because you're still fresh and in that school mode. So I think it would probably be easier right now. I know people that have gotten their MBA already. I'm kind of jealous because I put it off for a couple of years. So I don't see I think it's actually a good thing if you don't have anything solid set up right now.
Yeah, and it opens more doors, right? So if you take GRE, that opens up a whole other section of things that you can do. I think it's a good idea. I had a buddy that actually is in med school now, about to finish up with his fourth year. And after his first year out of engineering, he didn't get any acceptances to med school. He kind of decided late, didn't really have the shadowing hours, didn't really have the med school resume like it should have been. And he actually taught high school chemistry for a year and focused up on his resume and went to med school. So that's a specific med school route. And it may not be applicable to if you want to go into industry or something like that, but just taking any opportunity where you can build upon your resume and build some type of expertise that can be marketable later is extremely useful.
This is a great question in relation to what both of you touched on previously in utilizing LinkedIn and the Auburn connection, because as cheesy as one may think it sounds, the Auburn family really is everywhere, and we are scattered throughout more places than we probably know what to do with in a positive way. And so the student's asking, in connecting or in figuring out that there are companies or organizations of interest and they happen to see that connection of Auburn alum, what are some tips, and also what are your thoughts on that, even though they're not maybe in an engineering role or maybe they don't have an engineering background, what are your thoughts on still connecting with those individuals and maybe how those conversations could go?
Yeah, I don't think it necessarily, even if their major is not engineering. I know in our building, we've got business majors, we've got engineering majors, we've got the finance departments on the same floor, our legal departments on our same floor. So we all talk and we all communicate with a bunch of different people of different backgrounds. So they may know an engineering hiring manager down the floor, down the hall, or on another floor, or something like that. And I wouldn't stop reaching out to them because they don't particularly have a chemical engineering degree or whatever it may be. They're in the door, right? Yeah,
exactly. I would definitely reach out. And kind of on the subject of what the conversation would go, like you could even say, hey, War Eagle, interested in working at the company. Do you mind having a conversation with me, about the company and how you've liked working at the company? So it doesn't have to be, let's say if they're finance or business, you can just ask them, how's the company culture? When did you start working for them? Blah, blah, blah. And, I don't know what this is from, but people like hearing themselves talk. So if you just call somebody and let them blab for 20 minutes and just listen to them, they're not going to mind that at all. I think they're, like Chris said, everyone talks. So let's say if you call them, they're in HR business, and the conversation goes well, you know, they're probably going to, you know, they're going to probably say something to somebody in the area that you express interest in. So I would definitely reach out and not let, just because they're not engineering, I would not let that stop you at all.
Yeah. Auburn people like to vouch for other Auburn people too. So don't underestimate how much that means in the business world, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I want to get this one right, so bear with me. So if you both can maybe discuss in your personal experience right now, so where you're at in the process and your current position within your company, and even the management that you all have as part of your role, and equally who or whom you're working with. So when the day-to-day continues to be so fluid and so, you know, we say in our office that no 2 days are really looking the same, but maybe that could potentially be the same for you all. What are you seeing from your companies in the way that the crisis is being managed, or managing the crisis that is happening? And what would you both kind of think about or kind of share as maybe good management practices during this time, that not just in your personal companies, but that students should look to and to look for in relation to their job search? Because I think that, you know, from a personal perspective, I would encourage students to be looking at these companies and organizations who are treating each other well, treating others well. That could be probably a really great indication long term.
Yeah. And, you know, I have, I guess, two viewpoints on this. Because I know, you know, you've read that during hard times, you really see the true, I guess, character of people and, you know, of companies. You know, personally at Southern Company, it's been great because, you know, we're really focused on safety. So, you know, right when this stuff kind of started happening, they formed the coronavirus website with a lot of information, even though it was still in China. And when it got to the point where we're going to be telecommuting, they've sent out weekly, even I think it might be daily, newsletters to the entire company just on, you know, things related to coronavirus and, you know, working from home, issues you may have. And I know personally, my supervisor has a call once a week just to check in on everybody. We all get together on Skype. And then my team lead does the same thing as my supervisor, just with us personally. So they've been really intentional about keeping good communication and making sure we're okay personally. And if we feel sick or, you know, go to the doctor, let them know. And I know kind of on the opposite end, one of my friends, he went to Auburn and he works in Denver. I'm not going to say the company, but you know, when the, I guess, state recommended that everyone work from home, their management or vice president, whoever's over that location, was still urging them to come in, even though it was really not safe to. And then one of the, I guess, employees there spoke up and I think ended up either getting put on leave or getting fired. I can't remember, just because they were voicing their opinion about this is not safe. We shouldn't be doing this. And then took that to the media, and there was an article that came out about it. And it has really, the only thing it has to do with my friend that I know is that he works there, but his opinion now of the company is he's even talking about looking for another job because of what's happened at this company during this time, about how in his opinion now, they don't really, you know, they don't really care that much about employees in his opinion now, you know, about the safety of the employees in a time like this. So it's kind of interesting to see what happens, you know, in a time like this.
Yeah. Kind of to what Brandon was talking about, adversity reveals character, right? So in these tough times, how your company acts and how they react is I think, pretty indicative of what the company is like overall. Like Brandon's saying, like having a manager that reaches out to you once a week or once every few days and says, hey, this is not easy, how are you doing? That goes a long way for at least me. I'm just saying, like, this isn't easy, we get it, it's tough, let's make it through together, and then we'll be better at the end of the day. We have a coming up at 3:00, we have a virtual happy hour, which I think is just an excuse for everybody to drink alone in their apartments and houses and video chat with our coworkers. So we're going to be doing that.
Yep.
Wonderful. I'm just going to do one last call for a couple questions as we start to wrap up for the day. But just to kind of break it up a little bit, I'd love to hear from both of you. What's maybe your favorite kind of memory from your time here at Auburn, whether that be engineering or not, and then in hopes that football season is back in action in the fall, what's maybe your favorite tradition that you can share with us?
Favorite memory? There's so many. I don't know. Off the top of my head, probably the kick six. I mean, storming the field in the student section that might be number one.
Yeah.
Shoot. You know, I just love my time at Auburn. I mean, I was going, my parents went there, and, you know, I was always visiting as a little kid. And even though it sounds crazy, those nights down in Brown Hall studying 8-10 hours straight for tests with, you know, people in my study group was, I mean, looking back, it's like, you know, it kind of sucked at the time, but, you know, it was fun getting to know those people and being around those people a long time. You know, you don't really see people like that you went to school with since we all split up. But
yeah,
kick all the sports, football. Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
I was gonna say that's kind of crazy. I was two things popped in my mind were kick six and then sneaking into Ross 136, the classroom in Ross, and studying until like 3 a.m. and going to McDonald's at all hours of the night to get coffee and whatever else. It's having all your friends in the same place is pretty cool, pretty special. Now would not want to go back and do the work you guys are having to do. Good. Nope. Kudos on you guys. Keep it up. Keep up the hard work. Y'all doing great stuff. It's not fun, but the memories when you look back on it 5 years from now, you're gonna miss the people getting together. So. Yeah,
the camaraderie. And looking back, you know, I had times when I was, you know, I bombed a test or something, and, you know, was obviously or struggling with something and thought about switching out, or, you know, thought about if I was gonna be able to finish. But, you know, looking back, I'm, you know, really, really glad I stuck with it. So if you're struggling or whatever, just keep going.
Awesome. All righty. Well, that is what we have for today as far as questions. But I've got a few things to wrap us up for today, students, so please stay on for a couple more minutes. But first and foremost, thank you both so much again for your time today. I learned a lot about what each of you are doing, and I hope that our students found this to be as helpful as it has been. So I just appreciate you both, and I wish you both the best of luck kind of as this transition continues, and also for our students. I hope that today you enjoyed learning from both Chris and Brandon about what their roles are like, and also what the industries are looking like currently, but also ways to really engage during this time. I can speak to what they both already said is this is a great opportunity for you all to continue to build upon connections and to create new ones, because the honest truth is most people are remote right now. And so you might be pleasantly surprised to know that people are a little bit more in tune with their email, or maybe they're themselves as professionals updating their LinkedIn profile or just finding ways to connect. And so kind of as we continue this series over the next couple weeks, wanting to continue engaging with fellow young alumni within the engineering programs that we have here at Auburn. But also kind of after today, I will be following up with each of you with the recording. Fingers crossed that it's been working today. I'm not entirely sure, but I hope. But also just if there are additional questions, students, please email me individually and I will follow up with you all to get you that information. And I would be happy to reach back out to Chris and Brandon to see if they have, if they'd love to share some additional thoughts as well. And maybe we'll recruit them to be back for the rest of our series as well. So thank you both again. I really do appreciate it. Couple last minute items, students, before we sign off for today. This is just part one of a 3-part series. So next week, please consider joining us next Friday, April 10th at 12:30. It is a different link than today's Zoom meeting, but we'll be talking about practicing your handshake. And so getting more acclimated with all the great features that Handshake has to offer. But then even past that, how are you continuing to build your brand? How are you continuing to engage in the industry, just like today's topic? And so please join us next week. I know we have Joseph Moore from GE Aviation will be joining us for sure next week, and other speakers as well. And so last part of today for students is, if you continue to have questions, or if you want to find a time to speak more individually about your internship search, your co-op search, your job search, I am still available and ready to meet. So although campus is not currently accessible, our office in particular moved to completely remote. So I am setting up appointments via Handshake with students, and we're also using Zoom. So please feel free to reach out. We can set up an appointment just to learn more about your individualized process. I would be happy to talk more about ways to engage with LinkedIn, how to use a plethora of resources to continue to help cultivate that communication and that connection, and we can kind of talk about that individually as well. So I think that's all I have for today. Just the last reminder, students, if you haven't already done so, I'd love for you to just quickly chat me. I'd love to know what program you're currently a part of, where you're at in the process, and also what you're searching for, so that I can reach back out to you individually to figure out how myself as well as my office can be of assistance to you. But thank you guys once again. Happy Friday. I hope you all enjoy your weekends. Please stay safe, stay healthy, and War Eagle.
War Eagle.
Thanks, guys.
Hey, War Eagle.
Yeah.
Bye.